Welcome back everybody to linuxacademy.com. My name is Terry, and in today's course we continue our preparation for the Linux Foundation Certified System Administration exam. In this video, what we're going to be talking about is network security, specifically configuring SSH-based remote access using public and private keys. So as we've been working through this course and basically all other courses on Linux on the site, we use SSH to log into our servers and authenticate us so that we have a secure encrypted connection to our servers. But every time that we change servers, we have to log in with a username and a password. Fortunately, if you have a large number of servers that you constantly are working with from any Linux console that you have SSH available, you can use secure keys. You can exchange keys with those systems so that once your keys have been exchanged and confirmed, they will be able to authenticate you based on the known host value of your host, as well as the secure key that you've passed to that host. So what does that look like? So we're going to, from a local virtual machine running CentOS 6.6, and distribution makes no difference. All distributions have all of these tools and capabilities through SSH to do all of these commands, including OS X. So what we're going to do is we're going to SSH to a CentOS 7 system running on a Linux Academy lab server. So let's become the user, just for consistency's sake. So I'm this user called user. Now I can SSH as the user to 52.6.94.217. And it doesn't know who I am, so it's asking, should I import the key fingerprint for that particular host into our known host files, which we're saying yes for. And I'm logged in to this particular system. It tells me there was a failed login since the last time I was able to log in. Let's exit out of that system. And now if we look at our system, we can go into a .ssh directory that right now contains a file called known hosts. If we cat that known host directory, we'll see there's this long string. And that long string is a hashed value of this identifier, this RSE key footprint, that identifies this host, so the next time I go to SSH to it, I won't see that message. So in fact, if I repeat this command, you'll see that I go right to the password, because that is now a known host that has been hashed in my known hosts file. That's great, but that doesn't keep us from having to enter in our password. Well, we can do that by, on the originating system, my remote VM, running a utility called SSH-keygen. Now the SSH-keygen will generate a strong encrypted hash key file that I can use a public and private key. A public key is a key that I provide to someone else or something else, and then the private key is how it authenticates that public key was based on the key on my system. So I'm going to create what's called an RSA key pair, like I just described. I have a public key and a private key. By default, it will put it in .ssh and name them ID_RSA and ID_RSA.pub. So I'm not going to put a passphrase in here. You can put as complex a passphrase as you want here, but you'll have to verify the key phrase every time you make a connection. In this case, what we want to do is we want to exchange these in such a way that once they're verified, these keys will identify us without a password. So it now creates this random art image, which can be also used to verify the 2048-bit key that has the following fingerprint. And if we look now, we have an ID_RSA and ID_RSA.pub. That public key is now what I'm going to exchange with another system that has a user that I know that I want to link my account to. So now what I want to do is I want to do an SSH-copy-ID to the system at 52.6.94.217. And then it will ask me, well, what is that user's username and password? So I'm connecting as user, It's assuming that I'm connecting to the user account remotely, which I am, and I know that particular password, and I enter it. And now it says, try logging in. You'll notice I'm still on my remote system, or my local system. I haven't logged in. It's saying, okay, I've copied the key to the authorized key file in the remote system. Now try to log in without a user ID and password. So I can do SSH. Now I have to use the IP address because that is how I imported the key. If I use a name, I'm still going to get prompted for the password. But I can fix that if there's a name that I want to authenticate to. I just do SSH copy ID and then the name of the server as well as the IP. So that way I can do it either way. Now if I do SSH 52.694.217, you'll see I'm logged into the remote server. If I go to SSH, what I've got here is you'll see I don't have ID pub or private keys because I never generated them on the remote server, but I have an authorized keys file. And if I cat out that authorized keys file, you'll see that it's a hash of the public key for user at CentOS 6 vmtest.coxandsos.local, which is the local system that I logged into the remote system with. Now, one of the cool things about key exchange is I don't have to keep an account linked to the same account on another system. So for example, I've got on my local system a TCOX account, and say I wanted to log into without a password to the user account in the remote system so that I had the remote permissions of that user on that system, but still maintaining that it's TCOX, the key for TCOX is logged into that user account remotely. So from an audit perspective, it makes it easier for me to see what I have access to, where I have access to it, and what accounts are linked together. So for my case, I would do an SSH-keygen for the TCOX account, generate my key, SSH copy ID, and instead of just passing in the IP address, I tell it the user account that I want to associate this particular key with. So I'm copying the public key for TCOX to the authorized key file for user at that IP address. It's saying, okay, this is the RSA key footprint, which is going to go into my known host file. As long as I know the password for the user account that I'm trying to link my key to, it doesn't make any difference what accounts that I'm linking together as long as I've got the keys exchanged and I initially know the user account password for what I'm trying to log into. Now the difference here is if I just do an SSH to the IP, because SSH is going to assume without telling it a username I'm trying to log in with the same username, I'll get prompted for a password. However, if I just do a SSH user at 52.694.217, now signed into that particular server, and if we clear the screen and go to the .ssh directory, we'll see that in the authorized keys directory, we have a user, this hash key for the user TCOX linked to the user on this second server. So although I am not the same user, because I knew the user ID and password on the remote system and was able to exchange the key using an SSH copy ID, then that key exchange enabled me to log in as that user on the remote system regardless of the account that I came from. As long as I specify the right account and have exchanged the key with that remote user, then I'm able to log in using SSH without a password. So for secure authentication by exchanging public and private keys regardless of the user, that's all there is to it. My name is Terry for Linux Academy.